It's not a state of orgasmic enlightenment. Oh, I'm enlightened. Oh, I'm amazing. Oh, let's have a party. No. Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about spiritual enlightenment and why it's the damnedest thing, why it's a deeply paradoxical pursuit, why a lot of the teachings around it are quite confusing and create problems and misunderstandings, and what it really feels like to realize what the core insight of enlightenment. So why is spiritual enlightenment the damnedest thing? There's sort of various ways you can look at this. And I guess to approach this, we could say that whenever we think about getting good at something, we think about studying it over time. We think about learning something. We think about building our skills. We think about over time improving our competency. That's how we typically look at skill building. You know, we don't have something at the start and we have something at the end. And the process is like this process of ascension, of gaining, of building up. And often enlightenment is talked about in this way. You know, we have to go through stages of meditation practice. We have to train ourselves to understand the spiritual teachings. We have to wait for years for it to happen. Some Buddhist teachings say that it takes several reincarnations to become enlightened. And this is why it's paradoxical. Because on one hand, you can see enlightenment in that way. You can see it as building up, of gaining an understanding, of refining, of gaining skills in a certain way. And all your spiritual practice is absolutely essential for that to happen. And you won't find many, enlightened teachers that haven't done huge amounts of spiritual practice. Whatever system you're studying, that is the case. They all have many, many hours of practice if they know what they're talking about. But here's the thing about practicing. Here's the thing about gaining skills in enlightenment, you might say. Or here's the thing about going through the stages, that rather than building up like you do when you're at school, you know, you go through this course and the next course and the next one, and you build up these skills, the skill set, the knowledge. Enlightenment is actually a peeling back. So if you're doing meditation, for example, you do it for many years, in a sense you're gaining, but in the first person experience of it, you're actually losing. You're losing your ignorance. You're losing your blindness. You're losing your overlooking of the obvious. That's why enlightenment is deeply paradoxical, because when you have either a glimpse of it, or you have glimpsed it and understood it and practiced enough such that it becomes your default way of seeing yourself and operating in the world, you actually realize that there was nothing to gain, there was nothing to realize, there was nothing to see in a profound way. It seems profound from the state of ignorance, because the state of ignorance has us confuse our identity with our thoughts, our emotions, our personality, our self-image, and all of this. The whole internal human parade of stuff. We mistake ourselves for all of that. Only from that state does enlightenment seem like this fabulous realization of something amazing and wonderful and life-changing. When you actually are in that state, when you live there, you realize you could never get there through some external means. And actually, it was closer to home than the entire process you went through to reach it. So that's something you've got to watch out for in the spiritual path, is Are you creating this, turning this into a path that never has no end to it? Are you training and training and training and training, but never really getting to the heart of the matter? And the heart of the matter is, paradoxically, that there is no training required. And you might think that this paradox destroys all the spiritual traditions. You know, it destroys 2,000 years of Buddhism and of all the other contemplative traditions. And it actually doesn't. And here's, people have been debating about this for decades, millennia probably. And we don't need to debate. It's not a path of stages or a path of no stages. It's actually both. And here's how it works as far as I'm concerned. On one hand, you need to do your training. Like, if you want to pass your driving license, you need to do your training. You want to get good at maths, you need to do your training. You want to learn an instrument, you need to do your training. Like in any other pursuit in life, you need to do your training. The thing is that training takes you to the stage where you realize all that training was completely unnecessary in a certain way. And at that point, what happens is that the teachings, what you thought were profound teachings about the nature of reality, and they are, but you also realize that they are almost like someone trying to tell you how to tie your shoes. So, oh yeah, you get the two laces together and you cross them over and you do this and then you pull it and then it's like, once you know how to tie the laces, it's completely pointless for anyone to tell you to even try and describe it, because it's just the raw experience of tying your laces. When you have a very deep glimpse, or you live in that place of enlightenment to some degree, and I'm not saying I'm some super enlightened guru here, but I've seen enough to talk about this, I think. You realize that the pointers, they cannot possibly grasp the actual experience of enlightenment. You know, they talk about a still, profound, lucid, translucent awareness that is beyond everything that you're experiencing in your mind and body. They talk about a vantage point. They talk about your Buddha nature. They talk about Christ consciousness. They talk about pure consciousness. It's just smoke coming out. It's just words. It's just an attempt to try and capture something that, once you see it, it doesn't mean anything, and you don't get this huge, profound, amazing, orgasmic experience. I mean, you might, when you realize these things, or you go deeper than your current understanding. But when you embody it in your daily life, it's not like that at all. It's a profound freedom from the cage that you've been living in your entire life, without destroying the cage in a way, but just realizing that the cage is just a fabrication. It's just stuff. It's just your human identity. And actually, your true identity is pure and lucid and still and ever present and completely beyond. You cannot grasp it in any way. You cannot put your finger on it. You can't grab it in your hands. Like you want to understand something. You want to read a book. You grab it in your hands. You open it and you read it. You grab it and you understand it. You can't do that. And that's why all the pointers they're good pointers, in the sense that they might help you realize this thing. They might help you in your training, but ultimately you have to let them go, and you have to realize that they cannot possibly describe it. I also think we make the mistake of idealizing enlightenment too much. And we actually idealize it from a state of ignorance. I know it sounds kind of harsh, but it sounds amazing because you're fundamentally confused about who you are. And I don't mean that in terms of like your career or your family or your past or whatever. I mean in terms of who you actually are, moment to moment to moment, regardless of what you're actually experiencing. Who are you? You are fundamentally confused about that. And so the descriptions sound wonderful and amazing. And the enlightened guru on the stage looks profoundly peaceful and loving and so on. The thing is, the actual experience is not like that, really. It's a deep feeling of peace, of just being, it's pure awakeness. It's pure identity-free presence, without feeling that you're limited in any way. It's not a state of orgasmic enlightenment. Oh, I'm enlightened. Oh, I'm amazing. Oh, let's have a party. No, it's in the end, in a sense, it's the end of your life. It's the end of your life as who you thought you were. It's the start of true living. It's the start of living from who you really are, from who you've really always been, from the moment you were born, and some say before that, that you've confused yourself for this person, and you're not. You are this seat of consciousness, the Buddha nature, pure beingness, pure consciousness, pure stillness, lucidity. That's why enlightenment is the damnedest thing, because nothing can really describe it. It's not as good as people make it out to be, but it would also help people out an enormous amount that many other things cannot possibly come close to, because it cuts through a lot of the problems that you have in your life. And you don't become someone else. You don't transform into this enlightened, being of light. It's a loss. It's a return. It's a stripping back. It's a peeling back the layers, and just resting in who you actually are. That's why it's the damnedest thing, because it's not really what we think it is. It's not getting somewhere, going through the stages to climb the mountain and shout out from the top that you've made it. It doesn't work like that. So what's my advice then, given enlightenment is the damnedest thing? Well, you have to train hard. If you don't know what people are talking about when they talk about enlightenment, you have to train hard until you understand it. So I'm not saying, okay, well, the path is over, stop seeking, sit back on your couch and watch television, stop meditating, stop your awareness practices, whatever you're working on. That's not really wise, because then you're just going to end up in the unenlightened state that you've been in for your entire life. But also, try not to build up an identity of being a meditator or a yogi or this, wonderful, pure person. Because when you do that, you're not in who you are. Whenever you build up an identity of any kind, but we're particularly talking about spiritual identity, spiritual ego now. When you build up an identity like that, you're not in your pure beingness, your pure seat of consciousness, which is not a person. It's not a human being. You are not really a human being. you're experiencing the human drama in this human body with the mind and the ability to walk and talk and speak and so on. You're sort of playing a video game character. So anytime you get taking it too seriously or thinking, oh, enlightenment must be this far out, wonderful, amazing experience, and I must, journey for decades to find it. You have to realize that is not really, that's not what enlightenment is. And to diligently, silently cultivate an awareness of who you really are. Okay, do stay tuned. Coming back with weekly episodes for you. Do check out the website. Tons of articles on these topics as well as courses to help you go deeper. I also do one-to-one mindfulness coaching to help you work on specific issues you have in your life with mindfulness as our main tool. So check out the website if you like that. Thanks a lot for the support, and I will talk to you soon.